In this video, I will give you a quick introduction to jUCMNav and the use case map notation. I'll start off by opening a project and doing a right-click, New, Use Case Map or GRL Graph. If you don't have it there, it's maybe because you don't have the perspective open, so just click on Other, and in the list here, you should have jUCMNav, Use Case Map. So I'll choose this, and we'll start with this UCM notation, so we won't check the GRL box. And I'll call this demo.jUCM. Finish. And now jUCMNav is open with my blank use case map here. I'll call this use case map top level here in the properties, and you'll see that the top level tab here has been renamed. So a use case map is a simple path. So I'll start by creating a path tool here by selecting path tool in the palette and clicking a couple times will create a path segment. If I hit escape, it unselects my path tool and I can rename my elements. So I'll rename my start point here enter store. So a start point is a round circle, and I'll rename my endpoint here exit store. And the path, you read it from the start point to the end point. So I could inverse the path like this, so it's right to left, but I'll keep it simple from left to right. And these are empty points. So an empty point is meaningless in a use case map. It's just a placeholder for the curve or the squiggly line. And you can even hide the empty points if you wanted to make it cleaner. But I'll leave it there for now because we use the empty points. We can paste elements on top of it. So I'll start off by creating a responsibility. Click responsibility in the palette and go click on those empty points. So I'll click on 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, and maybe the third one I'll rename it have fun immediately. Press enter, press escape, so I've unselected my element from my palette, so it's back to select there, and I'll rename the other ones payment and fill out waiver. So I'm describing a process where somebody enters a store, has to fill out a legal waiver, maybe it's like a paintball store, because there's legal liability issues, pay for an hour of paintball, go have fun playing paintball, and exits the store. So this process here is a simple 3-step process. And I can say who is doing this by choosing the actor here, or a component in a use case map is basically a box. They're very similar, and I'll just highlight this area here and say this is my customer. Press enter and just go unselect my actor in here. So right now I've created a component and I want to bind it to what's underneath. I can do that by either just drag and drop what's inside the component. So now if I move that, the first one is bound so it moves, or I can say bind all enclosed elements. So now I've done that, and all of these path elements are inside my component. And just to make it nicer here, I'll change the fill color to cyan. So I've created a customer that does 3 things: fill out waiver, payment, have fun, and exit the store. What I'll do now is add a bit of encapsulation or abstraction. I'll just delete this empty point here because I don't need it. I'll select my payment option here and right click on that and say refactor into stub. So a stub here, I'll just give it the name payment. A stub is a container for another map. So if I double click on the stub, this is a static stub, I could have dragged it here from the palette by the way, is a map. So inside that same stub, and I can double click here on the start point or end point to go back up, is a submap. So I'll just click on my submap here in the tab and rename it payment, for example. Just to make it clear, we've got our top level map and our payment map. So the payment map right now is only one of these steps, but I'll make it a bit more complex or more interesting. So I can actually just delete this payment here for now because I won't be using it. I'll be making it more interesting. So I'll start by dragging the customer back onto the map. I can do that by either going to the UCM definitions in here and choosing the customer, or I can click on the definitions icon here, which will make it simpler, and I can drag and drop my customer back onto the map. So this is a reference to the same customer, so it's a definition that I'm dragging from here onto the map. And I'll just create another actor and I'll call him cashier. And this actor here, I'll change the fill color to, let's say, a green, just to make them easy to notice. And I'll create a simple little process. I'll start with the same path here, and I'll create a responsibility here to pay by credit card. So the customer gives the card, then I'll bring my path here into the cashier. The cashier will charge that credit card using the credit card terminal. And maybe I'll just show you how to extend a path by using the select. I'll choose the endpoint. Now click my path tool. Now that I've got it chosen, if I click in other places, it extends the path. So I'll bring this back up and there. And I'll take my customer here and I'll make him larger because we'll need some room up there. And I'll bind all enclosed elements just to make sure everything is connected. Sounds good. Okay, so I'll add more responsibilities in here. Let's say we'll print a receipt and we'll print a bracelet because you need to have a bracelet while you're playing, for example. Now, notice I did click on the empty points, but you can click anywhere on a path segment to create something. Now I'll actually just create some direction arrows just to make it clear. So click on direction arrow here. I can replace that one, maybe add a few here and there just to make it clear. So direction arrows have no real meaning. It's basically just a pointer to be easier to read. And I'll move my labels here around so that it's easier to understand what's going on. So maybe I'll put my print bracelet beneath it, print receipt beneath, and give card here. Maybe I'll rename gift card as give credit card, just to make it clear. And what you'll notice now is we've created more responsibilities. And if I open my definitions in here, I can see I've got these same elements. So I could drag a responsibility again, whoops, and drag it on a path, and now it says give credit card here later on in the path. Now this would not make sense, but it's just if I rename it back to give card, both references point to the same definition, so both are updated. But I don't need this, so I'll just delete it. It's not necessary in my example. And I'll rename my start point here to make it clearer. I'll say payment required, maybe move it off a bit, and it's not exit store here, it's paid. So if I go back up here, I enter the store, fill out the waiver, drill down into the payment where the payment is required. The customer gives the card to the cashier. Cashier charges the card, prints a receipt, prints a bracelet. Why not we'll just add another responsibility in here. We'll call it wear bracelet, so the customer does something more in here. So they wear the bracelet we've created or printed, and goes back to paid. So once it's paid, it continues on this path here and goes to have fun and exit store. And the way these bindings here are defined between the stub and the map is if you right click on the stub and click edit stub plugins, you'll see that you get a pop-up window, and it shows you all the other diagrams, the maps that are possible to bind to this stub. And payment is the only one because you can't bind to yourself. The top level map cannot bind back to itself. So and inside here we see that the first input of the stub is connected to payment required, and the first output is connected to paid. Now we can just delete, let's say, the output and just recreate it here manually by saying, okay, out one goes to endpoint paid. Bind that, and now it's done. And we can add conditions for bindings and all that, but we won't go into those details for now. Now let's create a scenario which is basically the execution of this model. So I'll go to the Scenarios and Strategies view and click on Scenario Def 6. And I'll rename this just to Normal, just to make it clear, and I'll rename my group to Normal Scenarios, for example. So a group just contains multiple scenarios. Each scenario has included scenarios, start points, initializations, preconditions, and endpoints, and post conditions. We'll keep this one fairly simple by just simply adding a start point to this scenario. So right click on normal and add start point. In our top level map we want to select enter store, click finish, and now we've said we want to run from this point on. So we're going to activate the scenario by click to switch to execution view, and now we see in red the path that we're following. So if I drill down, you see the whole thing is in red, and it goes back up, and I can deactivate it here. So this gives you, and we'll see in the future videos, a way to visualize different options. Right now we only have one single path, but later on in the demo we'll show you multiple paths. Thanks.